back to another episode of the WIM Speaks Show. I am your host, DPJeter, the founder and president of Women in Media Global, holding it down for us, the #1 sisterhood network in the world, WIM Global. Every single Wednesday from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, you can catch a brand new episode of WIM Speaks on excitementradio.com, sharing information, inspiration, and entertainment to empower you on this journey through leadership and advocacy. Our mission on the WIM Speaks Show is to explore important topics in the media, entertainment industry, and how women are affected by it. Here at Women in Media Global, we encourage you to own your voice and make a difference in the world. WIM Global empowers, equips, and encourages women to own their voice. Women in communications, entertainment, business, and media, that is our audience, and that is who we love to serve. I'm sending so much love and light out to all of our new listeners. Welcome to WIM Speaks, and thank you so much to our loyal followers who continue to support the movement. The WIM Speaks podcast will be dropping very soon, so you can catch all the replays there. But in the meantime, we're here live on excitementradio.com every Wednesday from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And if you also follow Excitement Radio on Mixcloud, you can actually catch all of our replays there currently. So we're bringing you another great episode. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this topic is really important. You might be asking, well, why is Women in Media talking about mental health, and how does that relate to our industry and women that are working in media and entertainment? Well, mental health affects so many people, and it doesn't discriminate against color, industry, gender, or age. 18% of Americans battle with some sort of mental health disability or disorder, and it's something that really affects women more than men. And it's important to really just be mindful of what is happening, the symptoms, how to care for ourselves, and how to promote wellness. We all know if you are working in media and entertainment, our industry is very fast-paced. We juggle a lot of roles. We not only do we have multiple roles at home, but then we go to work and we have so many roles and different things that we do at work. It's very fast-paced. It's very deadline-driven. And a lot of women who work in this space experience burnout. And that's something that we want to make sure that we talk about, that we're very vocal about, and that we, the women who are a part of our network, that we prepare them personally as well to be well-rounded leaders who are healthy and strong so that they can show up as their best selves. And so we're really excited to talk about this very important topic and to bring awareness about it and to really talk against those stigmas that plague us when it comes to mental health. So I'm really happy that we have such an amazing expert on the show with us today. I want to welcome to the show Essence Cohen Fields. She is my friend, my Spelman sister, and it's just an honor to have you here with us tonight. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I was saying I'm excited to be here, and hello to your audience. And I'm very, very happy to connect with you in this way.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. Essence Cohen Fields is a trusted, licensed professional counselor with over 10 years of experience providing attainable, goal-based therapy. Essence is the owner and executive director of First Love Yourself Counseling, short for FLY Counseling. Cohen has been featured as a mental health expert on NBC News, Bustle, Martha Stewart Weddings, as well as other publications, and is the author of The Pocket Guide, a lesson on how to fly, understanding the correlation between self-love, healing, and personal success. She specializes in trauma processing and boundary setting with a focus on sexual abuse and racial trauma. She's also the author of another book called That's Not Okay, a new children's book that just came out. And so we're happy to have you here to talk about mental health awareness. And May, raises awareness about trauma and the impact that it can have on the physical, emotional, and mental well-being of children, families, and communities. May is a time to raise awareness of those living with mental or behavioral health issues and help to reduce the stigma so many may experience, as well as sharing strategies for attaining mental health and wellness. Like I was saying, we talk a lot about wellness, but we don't always talk a lot about mental health, which is, it's so very important that we have professionals like you who are not only just running your practice as the founder, but then you're also raising awareness and owning your voice in the media and in speaking engagements and in the press, and really talking about issues that matter.
Well, thank you so much. It is definitely a passion of mine, and it's nice to be able to spend my time, all my expertise, and to be able to focus my energy into something that aligns with my personal kind of interests as well. So this is neat, very neat, and I'm happy to really help destigmatize the topics around and conversations around mental health, because I'm sure you can remember 10, 15 years ago, even 20 years ago, it's very taboo to discuss mental health so publicly. So this is nice.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not healthy either, because people suffer in silence and they don't get the support that they need to, fight through the battle and to come on the other side as a success and be able to lead their lives. So I think it's really important. And as I was preparing for the show tonight, I started to look up some statistics about mental health in women. And I found it really interesting. It says that more than 1 in 5 women in the United States experienced a mental health condition in the past year, such as depression or anxiety. And many mental health conditions, depression, bipolar disorder, affect more women than men, or affect women in different ways. Do you know, what are some of those different ways that women are just more impacted than the males?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because women, we're taught from an early age to be expressive. So a lot of ways, sometimes we can seem like we're impacted differently because we may be more apt to share with people that we're going through something, or it may be more visible. One might just start, just have a breakdown, in front of a girlfriend.
I got you.
Or,
okay.
So we tend to be more expressive, and it's documented more. So I'm gonna say that we might be impacted a little bit more, but I also think it's because we also report more than maybe men are a little maybe underreported. And also just biologically, we cannot discount the different hormonal things that we go throughout the month that changes the levels in our body, the chemistry in our body that definitely impacts the way in which we experience emotions. So there's a lot of things that can be amplified based on how much we have going on inside of us biologically.
That makes a lot of sense. I see the connection now, especially with the underreporting and the fact that women, we express ourselves more than males do just traditionally. So that makes a lot of sense. Hey guys, if you are tuned in to WIM Speaks Radio on Facebook and you want to hear and see my guests, go ahead over to the website www.excitementradio.com, and so there you'll be able to see and hear the entire conversation if you're tuned in online. Okay, so to kick things off, Essence, I have a question that I love to ask our guests, and it's called Wise Lessons Learned from Women. So what piece of advice have you learned from a wise woman, and who was she?
Well, I got to give it up to Mom Dukes. Got to give it to the Dukes. There's so many. I mean, her favorite thing to say to me is always, keep God first, you'll never come in second. That's just what comes to my mind.
I like that.
Right off the top. And that, that really helps me to kind of reprioritize things. Sometimes when things can feel really overwhelming and you don't know, you're juggling a lot. And it's like, hey, you know what? That statement reminds me to get focused again on, making sure that my intentions align with God's will, and just kind of going from there, laying things out and say, hey, you know what, Lord, help clear my mind so I can figure out what do I need to spend more time on and less time on, help clear my path and clear my head. So off the top of my head, I definitely got to give that to Mom Dukes.
And so Mom said, if you keep God first, you'll never be second?
Yes.
I'm going to definitely take that piece of wise advice as well. So shout outs to your mom for that. I never heard that, but I've kind of heard similar, themes and sayings around putting God first and that sort of thing. So I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah.
Mom.
So let's talk more about why mental health awareness is so important. And I heard you mention, when we introduced you on the show, that this is something that you're passionate about, that is personal and close to you. So why do you believe in it so much?
That's a good question. It's something that I decided to study undergrad psychology degree, Spelman, of course. And then as I was studying it, I just had a genuine interest. And then I began to see how it gave me the formal labels of things that I had witnessed from people. People may not have known what exactly it was that they're experiencing, or even
Okay.
I've experienced. And so to be able to put labels to certain things that we see, and in particular, I'll say honestly, in the Black community, I feel like there's a lot of things that collectively we experience as a trauma that we just kind of chalk it up as being a part of the Black experience, that it really truly is classified as complex trauma. Where where you can have random acts of discrimination, you
Yeah.
can have kind of ongoing acts of discrimination, like, okay, I already know when I go to this area, I got to build up my armor because most likely they might act a little funny. Or you could just have, a day out in the street and someone just uses a racial epithet. And so when, we say that's, oh, we're so resilient, we're so resourceful, and all these things are true, but that doesn't mean we should have to be. So when we're able to kind of just blow the lid off and put a label to like say, hey, you know what, we're disproportionately experiencing these things. We make it look pretty fashionable and easy. And, even, it's like, hey, I want to, we make it look trendy, but truly it's something that we shouldn't necessarily have to experience. And so that's part of why it's personally important for me to be involved in this work.
So what I'm hearing is mental health disorders is not self-inflicted. It is a response, or it comes from, I guess, external experiences that one might go through that, inflicts harm or displeasure, or something, a negative experience that then kind of takes them down this road of maybe depression and anxiety. It's not self-inflicted.
I actually would absolutely agree with that.
Okay.
Because even when you think about things that have been known to have biological links, for instance, like substance abuse, alcoholism, different substances, even there's been links with more severe disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar. Someone can have a gene, right, that makes them more susceptible to it, but until they have an experience that then activates this gene, then that's when you begin to see that expression. They become symptomatic. So yes, I would agree with that for sure. And I'd like to even expand on that. After the year 2020, which will go down in infamy, okay, I don't think anybody has been unscathed from experiencing some degree of mental health stress. We didn't have our natural outlets that we usually have. So if you were used to going to the gym, or you're used to taking your drive to work, everything is shut down. Having some time away from the house, everything is shut down. And so we all experience this level of just frustration, and in a way that our overall kind of psychological, emotional, and our social well-being, which encompasses your mental health, was impacted.
Yeah, I agree. That's really true. I mean, 2020, I've definitely personally have experienced some experiences with the mental health,
Oh yeah, it was stressful.
stress, depression, anxiety. I've experienced it, and I would say I don't remember ever experiencing anything like this before, and it's also very important that we be mindful that we're kind to ourselves, and that we, take it a little easy on ourselves. Don't be too hard on ourselves, because circumstances were out of our control last year, and a lot of things happened. Not only did the global pandemic happen, but everything that happened with police brutality and the impact that had on the Black community was very heavy as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said.
Yeah. So I want to also just emphasize to all of our listeners that I met this brilliant woman at Spelman College. And so we went to school together, and I had to make sure that if you are tuned in right now, you'll see me in my Spelman sweatshirt. I had to make sure that I wore the shirt and represented. But I just want to say thank you so much, Essence, for always keeping in touch and for always just being a light. You have always been a light and such a joy to know. You always are smiling and very gentle and kind. And from the days going back to the African American Chamber of Commerce, coming out to all of my first events in Philly, and just riding with me from day one type. You've seen the progression of where the business has gone and so forth and so on, and likewise with me and you and your husband as well. So we definitely have been supporting each other on this entrepreneurship journey for sure.
We definitely have, and thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gina, for saying that. I mean, I remember band camp.
Before we was trying to get the bag, right?
Okay.
True.
Oh, and all of your success, it doesn't surprise me. It won't surprise me to see you on the moon setting up a shop. And like everything you say you're gonna do, you've done, and more. So it's an honor to be connected with you and everything for sure.
For sure. Today I was like real hyped too on my Instagram story, and I wore my Spelman tank top. I was like getting in my zone. And I was like, ain't nothing like a Spelman woman. Nothing like us.
You can always tell her. You can't tell her much.
Can't tell her much, So shout out to Spelman College for all of the great women who's a part of our sisterhood who has come through.
Oh, yeah.
It's a day doesn't go by without me speaking to somebody from Spelman and Morehouse. Today I had a visit from one of my Morehouse brothers who stopped by, while they're in town. Awesome. So our network is so awesome. Okay, so back to the topic at hand, Mental Health Awareness Month. So what are some of those symptoms and signs of mental health disorder that we should be aware of?
Okay. Well, something that I want everyone to keep in mind when it comes to mental health, think of it as being on a spectrum. Meaning, so think of it as being from not disruptive to disruptive. Okay. So if you're having symptoms, so everyone's experienced the blues, that's kind of like a general term, like, you're just feeling down. It's not your day. You're not feeling like yourself necessarily. And so, but how disruptive is that symptom? So when I'm talking about the blues in particular, right, that would be kind of things that are symptomatic of depression. So is it disrupting your day in terms of, are you able to still get out of bed and take care of your hygiene? Are you able to still attend to your schedule? Are you able to still get out to work and interact with people? Or are you having a day where you're like, I don't really want to talk to anybody. I kind of just want to go within for a little bit. So that would be kind of moderately disruptive. And then kind of not disruptive is one of those things like, it's not really my day, but I'm going through it. So that's what I want you to think about in terms of the spectrum. But symptoms to look out for. If you are kind of neglecting your overall hygiene, right? And so that's for me, that's like one of the biggest red flags that goes unnoticed. I'd say the most. You're just kind of like, when's the last time I really took care of myself? And being in quarantine, it's been kind of easy to just be like, I have nowhere to go, so why am I gonna really put effort into? You should still take care of those things. Also, when it comes to just a little bit of on edge, and this could be being a little irritable. So are you quick to kind of be offended by people who are normal, like your normal supportive person? Are you kind of snappy with them a little bit? That would be some kind of irritability. And then also hearing from the people in your life, if they're given a moment to kind of check in with you, do they notice any changes in you? It might be kind of hard to hear, but from people that you trust, it would be good for them to weigh in on these things. So that's what I'm thinking. Irritability, poor hygiene, just having a lack of interest in things you used to enjoy, which is kind of tricky because you can have interest all you want, we don't have access to it because things have been shut down, etc. But either way, if you still have an interest in those things, that's a good sign. But if you no longer like, you know what, I used to like to sing, but now I can't find myself, I can't bring myself to do it. Like it's just not in me anymore.
Right.
You want to follow that. What was that change? What was the catalyst to the difference there? And so being able to watch out. So that's an example of like the blues, some symptoms you would look out for. Other things, just to add on to that, is kind of feeling fatigue all the time. Like, are you just constantly exhausted and you really haven't done much to be as exhausted as you feel? So you're just kind of constantly tired, low motivation. You're just like, you just want to do what you have to do and then go right to sleep, or you just constantly need just like a break. And then also monitoring your food intake. So are you eating too much? Are you not eating enough? Have you skipped a couple of meals in a row, not intentionally, not if you're like intermittent fasting or anything, but unintentionally skipping meals, or just kind of find yourself overeating. All symptoms which, depending to the degree, everything I named can either fall under anxiety or depression.
Okay.
But yeah, depending on the degree of either. And most importantly, if these have been present for more than 2 weeks, then that's when we're looking at a formal diagnosis, depression or anxiety, if these have been present for more than 2 weeks.
Got it. Hey, friends, there's some really great information being shared right now from our guest, Essence Cohen Fields, who is the owner of Fly Counseling. If you are tuned in on Facebook and Instagram, you won't be able to hear my guests. Go on over to excitementradio.com. Just go ahead and put that in your web browser so you can see and hear the entire conversation, because we are breaking it down. We're really talking about this wellness and this mental health awareness, and we really want you to have that convo. excitementradio.com is the best way to tune into the show each and every Wednesday, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So let's talk more. What is the emotional, psychological, and social well-being sides of mental health? So that's the emotional, psychological, and the social.
Okay, so when you think of emotional, this is kind of putting a label to your feelings, right? So this is, am I feeling happy? Am I feeling down? Am I feeling, embarrassed? Am I feeling jealous? So that's like the emotional piece, like putting a label to your feelings, right? So that's the part of mental health. So what are those feelings? And then the psychological piece is really about your own thoughts and to what extent they're impacting you. So are you able to kind of embrace your own kind of agenda without being impacted by other people's, I guess, expectations of you, or even just little conversations you may have had that might have kind of jilted you a little bit and impacting your own thoughts. So are other people's thoughts or expectations becoming your own? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so is that a negative thing?
In this example I'm describing, it can be, for sure.
It can be, okay.
It can. And that's when you are kind of having that, you're kind of ruminating, kind of really perseverating on certain things over and over about, what did they mean when they said this? You might spend some time thinking about that, but now is it preventing you from doing certain things that you would have done if that conversation didn't happen?
Mm-hmm.
So that's when that psychological well-being is being impacted, when you are kind of avoiding certain things because of your own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that's the thought process, your cognition. And then in terms of our social well-being, that's really staying connected. It's so important. And so just, reaching out virtually, just being connected with people is important who know you. And then it's also important to be connected with people who you want to get to know, just to kind of keep things, just kind of stay inspired and stay invested, giving you things to kind of look forward to in your future. Future planning is so important. The minute that people don't find anything to look forward to, that's a really big sign of that there's some disruption in their mental health.
I've certainly have recognized that in the past, just, coming across different people on my journey, just, maybe lack of hope I guess we can put it there, and they just kind of feeling hopeless, So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for certainly just breaking down those basics for us, so we are aware of just things we need to know, this information, and so not only for our own personal wellness, but for those around us and for our loved ones, so we could be aware. I think that's awesome information. And can you also talk to us about the connection of mental health and violence? And I wanted to specifically talk about this and see if there was anything. I was just thinking, is there a connection there? My heart definitely goes out to Philadelphia. And not only just Philly, a lot of our inner cities experience just high volume of poverty and violence and things like that. So I was just wondering if there was some sort of connection there.
My heart definitely goes out to Philly. It has been really intense over the last year.
Yeah.
New York, I just read just the other day, gun violence is up by 75%.
75%?
Yeah. It's been a really intense everywhere, I'd say, across the country. So is there a correlation between mental health and violence? I mean, it's absolutely, from the extent of, I'd say, as the perpetrator, people who are committing crimes, violent crimes, having their own struggles with mental health. So I'm gonna say people who are committing, violent crimes have kind of exhausted, don't necessarily have the tools to really manage their frustrations in a way that could lead to better outcomes other than violence. Right?
Okay.
So being so tormented by whatever it is that's leading them to go do this, whether it's a random act of violence, mass shootings, whether it's targeted violence, and air quotes targeted because, bullets don't have a name. So all of these things, people have they're not having the right tools to be able to say, hey, there's a better way to handle whatever it is you're experiencing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Before you have to resort to violence, because everybody wants to live in a safe environment. So there are better ways to handle it, but I understand it's cyclical, and you can't, I do understand. But then, so that's from the perpetrator's perspective. And then from the observer perspective, the community at large, how are they being impacted by it? I mean, you mentioned it just in terms of just police brutality, just witnessing things, just seeing, violent, or even hearing about violent acts of violence from, whether it's from police officers, just, or just community personnel to community, civilian to civilian. It's exhausting. It kind of zaps away at our hope, that kind of feeling of hopelessness.
Yeah, especially when you just see it repetitively.
Yes.
You're just this ain't never gonna change.
Yeah, absolutely. And those images kind of get burned into your psyche. And I would definitely suggest, if people are still doing this, not watching these videos that are circulating online, I would even suggest, in terms of just being conscious of what you ingest in the media, I would say watch the news, choose a time of day. You don't have to be all in the cycle all day long, because after a while it does tend to get, you can tend to have a feeling of hopelessness. It's good to be in the know, but to what extent, is it impacting your own mental health? But absolutely, people they lose hope, they become dejected, they feel, just a level of fearfulness, kind of walking around, not trusting your neighbor, not trusting your community, really kind of being withdrawn and isolated seems kind of like the safest place to be, when in actuality, there's, in general, people do still want safe environments, safe neighborhoods. So there's less people committing violence than there are people who are doing it, so if their voices can be amplified and their intentions can be our voices, our intentions kind of band together and kind of, reevaluate what's going on and what can be done. Tall order, I know it's tall.
I mean, you bring up a really valid point, and it goes back to really my personal mission for being in this space and really being passionate about amplifying the positive voices and giving those who have something of value to say an outlet to absolutely say those things, to then also building a community and a network of women in media who are creating positive outlets, who are advocating change agents, changing narratives. And so then we have that that community, that network who is, coming together as a coalition to change things. And that's exactly why I'm into this work, because the news is so flooded with negative things that impact us in a way. I actually stopped watching like traditional TV like right after college.
Okay.
I just turned it off. I just was like, I'm done with it. I'm over it. And I haven't really engaged it. Like you said, I don't tune into the news cycle all the time. Even as a practitioner, someone working in this space, I tune into the news that I want to tune into. If it's not something that I feel like is going to be beneficial to me, I like being in the know, but to what extent?
Yes, exactly.
If it's not going to help
me. It's emotionally draining. It's overwhelming. Oh my God. Especially before this presidency. I don't need to know every tweet. I don't need to know these things. We don't need to know. But yeah, it can be draining.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So, before I definitely want to talk about your new book and more about your practice, but let us know just some practical wellness and some tips that you often share with your clients and those around you who might be experiencing some mental health disorders and just disturbances right now.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things is just to get people to check in with themselves. So first, love yourself counseling. That's the name of my practice. Simple questions to ask, right? What do you need more of and what do you need less of? Start there. Just really check in with yourself at the end of the day. How was this day? What do I need a little bit more of? What do I need a little less of? And go pursue those things and kind of figure out what needs to be rearranged, right? So that's a simple check-in. And then one of my favorite things is helping people find their self-love language. Once you identify your self-love language, then figuring out what activity you can do to help, nurture that part of you. So there's 5 different love languages when it comes to expressing love to someone else, but for your own, it's called your self-love language. So there's words of affirmation, and that might look like journaling to yourself, writing yourself a note. I support wholeheartedly, whether it's your love language or not, just clearing your head. There's physical touch. So that might look like getting a massage, something like that. I go to the chiropractor like once a month, and it's great. So then there's gift giving. So that might look like, it's self-explanatory, within limits, not blowing everything on Amazon just so you can get a package every day, but something you can do for yourself. Let's see, there's also, so we said words of affirmation, physical touch, gift giving, quality time. And so that might look like really being intentional about spending time with yourself. So it's like, hey, I'm going to go and take this kickboxing class, sister, daughter, mom, wife, all these things, but I need this time for me. It's going to be 45 minutes, no phone, it's just me in the bag or whatever it is. And then, so that's quality time. And then acts of service. So that might look like, it could be, for some people, cleaning up their home is like very therapeutic. And I will say having a clean space is therapeutic, but sometimes it can feel more like a chore for some people. But if you enjoy that kind of act of service and it makes you feel like you're really taking care of yourself, then I would say go and do something like that. Yeah, I can't emphasize enough, making sure you have a pretty clean space.
Those tips are awesome. I don't think I was aware of a self-love language as an actual tool and practice and thing to be aware of. I know about the 5 love languages, like you said, when it comes to loving other people, but I think that's really interesting. You gave us a lot to think about. So those are really amazing tips. And so as we continue to talk more about your practice, just tell us about first Love Yourself Counseling, what the practice is all about, and how did you come up with the name?
Thank you for asking. So I've been in business since 2018 and been full-time since the end of 2019.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, I started out virtual, and then I have an office space in Lansdowne,
that's great.
Delaware County, and then I ended up going virtual again. So I still have the office, but it just hasn't been open yet. It's going to be opening this month in June. So it's kind of come full circle being like virtual again. But the practice, the name was given to me in a dream. It came directly from God. It was one of those things like I was woken up out of my sleep, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to secure this name immediately. So like at like 3 a.m, I applied for the LLC.
That's amazing. That's a great story.
Yeah, so I was like, I gotta get this, and then I decided. So I had been working with clients, 2018 was part-time, and I felt like my clients needed more than the traditional, studies that I had done. And so I went and pursued an additional certification in something called EMDR. And I felt it gave me a lot more confidence in being able to work with my clients who experienced trauma. And so EMDR is an additional certification. It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And so it helps people become more desensitized to a traumatic event that they experience, so that it's not as disruptive to their daily functioning. It gives them kind of like a distance between, when you recall something that's traumatic, sometimes people can't talk about it. Sometimes they feel those feelings again, kind of like they get kind of startled or stuck in their body. And this gives them the opportunity to, again, bring distance in between what they experience and what is actually happening in the moment. It's a great tool that I incorporate into my practice, which is why I specialize in particular sexual abuse and racial trauma, because it is such an intense, it can be such an intense.
That's heavy work.
That it needs something a little more intensive. And yeah, so I enjoy the work that I do. I'm looking to expand and hire. So this is, a big deal.
Yeah. Well, we need y'all, because it's a lot of trauma going on, and it, is even things that are not being dealt with that people are experiencing. And I love the fact that we are bringing awareness to these topics, making sense of it, and saying it's okay to seek out support and help, and it's not taboo anymore to get a therapist to work through, your emotions and things that is going on. And it could be really affordable too, from what I've experienced, for sure. So in your bio, I found it very interesting, your pocket guide. And so, you're talking about the correlation between self-love, healing, and personal success. Can you break that down for us?
Oh yeah, so it's my first little guide that came out with. I have it across the room. I don't have it next to me, but it's available on Amazon.
Yes,
if
girl.
you want to purchase it. So yeah, basically that was something that kind of came to me just overall, just thinking about how healing is kind of like the vessel that allows you to get to your personal success. And so healing, one of the things that I have a chapter on, it's about healing kind of your inner critic and really thinking about the things that you don't feel like you are capable of achieving, and really helping you to examine who told you that. What experiences did you have that suggest you can't do that? Who did you observe that from, that maybe they weren't successful at, and so now you adopt that as your own perspective. And so I'll give you, something I say in the book is something simple to kind of heal your inner critic is and so what?
Yeah, I love that.
And so what? And then keep going, keep pushing past it anyway.
Push past it.
Yeah, and so that's kind of like the access to that personal success, and really emphasizing the personal part of the success, because you're measuring it against what you want for yourself, not in comparison to someone else.
That's great. I definitely want to read that. It sounds really great. It sounds like I could use some of those tips as well. So you said it's on Amazon. Everybody check that out on Amazon. Tell us the title of that book.
It is, I don't have it in front of me, Gina. It's such a long title. But it's about personal self-love and healing leads to personal success.
Yep, it's a lesson on how to fly, understanding the correlation between self-love, healing, and personal success. So you can find that on Amazon if they type in your name, Essence, Cohen Fields, it will pop right up. So tell us about your new book. You have a new book out, That's Not Okay. Tell us more about that book too.
Yes, so that is my big passion project. It's right here. I don't know if you, better yet, it's behind me. You can see if you're tuning in. It is a children's book called That's Not Okay, and it teaches children between the ages of 3 and 8, getting them really, really early, teaching them. Basically, it's about the prevention of sexual abuse and teaching children how to be assertive and promote appropriate physical boundaries. So giving them something simple to say in the event that they feel uncomfortable with someone, or something's being kind of said inappropriately, and they're like, hey, this doesn't feel right, because children are very intuitive. And so sometimes having something simple to say can really change the kind of outcome of their circumstance. I came up with this after working with so many people. I used to work with juvenile sex offenders. I worked with survivors of different things.
Juvenile sex offenders?
Yeah. 3 years. in
Juveniles
Philadelphia.
who have sexually abused others.
Yes.
Wow,
Oh
that's
yeah.
deep.
Yeah. So I was involved with the Philadelphia Family Court, the judges, probation officers, all of that. And it gave me a really good perspective. Interestingly, which I feel like people are starting to understand, a lot of times they're acting out what was done, may have been done
Done
to
to
them.
them. Yeah, something that they saw.
So,
Yep, or experienced.
you
Yeah.
know, so that I got a chance to really talk about, you'd be surprised how, even though families don't talk about these things, they end up, unfortunately, kind of generationally having this kind of behavior done to their child, their children, on and on. This book is about prevention. And in my practice, what I do is treatment. So I figure if I can, get the whole gamut from prevention to treatment, how powerful would it be to just eliminate, sexual abuse altogether? Why can't we eliminate that? So that's part of my life's work. Just really just thinking about it as, not them, not, and that's like the hashtag that I use, not these children, not, why does it have to be something that we anticipate can't be eradicated?
Yeah.
It's about self-control. It's about children having the ability to feel like they can advocate for themselves. And so, yeah, the book really covers also safe people that children feel safe with. They identified, one of the questions is, who's a trusted adult in your life? And so, yeah, it promotes really good dialogue. So I would say it's a children's book for families.
Okay. Yes. Yep. And so where can this book be purchased?
It can also, if you go to Amazon and just type in Essence Cohen Fields, it'll come right up. And if you like a personal signed copy, you can go directly to my website. That's flycounseling.com. So FLYCOUNSELING.com under shop.
Awesome. So in closing, let us know, speak to all of the listeners and the viewers today. What can we do to help prevent child sexual abuse?
Yeah, it's really about giving children the space to know that they can come to you, allowing them to feel comfortable. So right now, just what you can do is making sure you're listening to your kids, allowing them to know that, hey, even when it comes to just silly things, I know I can have your attention, right? So that's building rapport, building that trust. That's how it's going to start, because children are not going to open up to you if they feel like I'm going to get in trouble if I share this.
Right.
So allowing them to really share their experiences, and then helping to shape them, giving them language to say, one of my favorite things, and I put this in the book, is to ask kids, has there ever been a situation where you wanted to tell someone that's not okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that could facilitate a type of conversation. And you can even say, hey, I want to tell someone that's not okay when they cut me off when I was driving. Just giving, kind of normalizing certain experiences, so that in the event there is a disclosure, you already have a rapport with your child or the child in your life, and it can feel like, you're an outlet for me. So I say definitely start there. And there's a lot of good resources in the back of my very last page, where there's exploratory conversation consideration that allows families to expand the dialogue. So I would also say getting this book as a resource is really helpful in the prevention of sexual abuse.
Wow, this has been another inspiring and informative episode of WIM Speaks Radio. Essence Cohen Fields, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Essence, for being on to the show today. My Spelman sister, let everybody know your website and also like all your social handles again, so they can support you.
Thank you so much, Jeter. Again, it has been a pleasure connecting with you as always. And to your audience, thank you so much for listening. You can follow up with me at Fly Counseling. That would be at Fly Counseling for Instagram. And my website is www.flycounseling.com. And if you'd like to stay connected with me on Facebook, that's First Love Yourself Counseling. And again, I'm Essence Cohen Fields, so thank you all.
Thank you so much. I am your host, DPJeter. You can follow me on Instagram at DPJeter_, womeninmediaglobal.org. We are Women in Media, and we have spoken. Thank you.
Thank you.